Alright everyone, welcome back to another review, and this time we're going to be covering Hellraiser 3 Hell on Earth, and this will be my last review of the Hellraiser movies because after 3, I don't own the other ones, I've never seen the other ones, and I have zero interest in watching them because I've seen clips of them and they look like garbage. But 3 is not garbage. 3 I actually like, so let's talk about it. Okay, so to get the confusion out of the way, Now as we all know, in Hellraiser 2, Pinhead was dead. So in this, but we also find out that his soul was redeemed by Kirsty. So, pretty much, after, Elliot Spencer was, redeemed, the Pinhead entity was too evil that it took took its own separate, independent form. Hence, that Pinhead now lives independently from Elliot Spencer. So yeah, that's how Pinhead's still alive, and it's confusing the way I said it, and it's confusing just thinking about it, but just go with it. Okay, so that's that. Now let's actually talk about the movie. The movie it's okay. It's okay. It's enjoyable. I like Hellraiser 3. It's tonally completely different from the previous 2 movies. The previous 2 movies had like that supernatural gothic fantasy horror element to it. This one has a typical 90s slasher vibe to it. So it's like tonally completely different from the other Hellraiser movies. But that doesn't mean it's not a fun movie, because for what it is, this is a fun movie. Terry Farrell plays Joey Summerskill, the reporter. I like her character. I like the idea of her being a reporter, because she actually gets to do some investigation work, which is pretty cool. So for a good portion of this movie, you have a little detective work going on. She's trying to unravel the mystery of how this man mysteriously combusted by being attached to chains and shit like that. So she's on detective work to find out what happened, and it eventually leads her to the box, the Lament configuration, where she meets Elliot Spencer, and Elliot Spencer, gives her the exposition of what I told you at the beginning of this video, and how it all came to be, and how Pinhead must be stopped because he's not bound by the rules of hell. He's bound by nothing. He can run amok and do whatever he pleases. And in this movie, Pinhead does whatever he pleases. Like I said, this movie plays out like a typical 90s slasher movie, and it's more prevalent in this nightclub where Pinhead just starts dispatching people in grisly, gruesome, creatively cool ways. One of my favorite kills is where he kills this DJ by impaling him with multiple CDs. I thought that was funny as all hell. I thought it was pretty cool. There's this one scene where this woman's taking a drink, and the liquid turns into an ice dagger, and he stabs her right in the mouth. So in terms of gory, creative kills, give this movie some thumbs up. In terms of in terms of how it stands in the Hellraiser mythos, it's not bad. It's okay. To me personally, the strong scenes in this movie is pretty much Doug Bradley and Terry Farrell bouncing off one another with their dialogue and bantering one another, and Elliot Spencer telling Terry what she has to do in order to stop Pinhead. I think those scenes are where this movie's at its strongest. I guess this movie, unlike the other 2 movies, which did a good job at keeping the Cenobites in the background, Pinhead is in the forefront more in this movie. This really is the Pinhead show. This is the Doug Bradley show, and this is by far probably Pinhead's most demonic portrayal. Now that he's separate from the rules and everything, Doug Bradley plays him so menacingly in this movie. He's and the dialogue he says is just so rich and just so good, and that delivery that Doug Bradley has as Pinhead is amazing. He's so refined and so articulate, and yet there's a lot of sinisterness to it. But only Doug Bradley can pull this role off, and it's a damn shame that he retired from this role, and it's a damn shame that the movies didn't retire with him because. Anyway, let's keep going. And like I said, I also like Bradley as Elliot Spencer, and I like the contrast of the good guy and the bad guy, especially in the end, where we get a nice brief little moment where Doug Bradley is pretty much acting against himself. You know, you have Elliot Spencer acting against Pinhead. It's a cool little scene, and how it was shot and how it was filmed. I like it a lot. You have other characters. You know, they got this J.P. Morgan guy who's like owns a nightclub. He's a real sleazy dick. And you got this other girl named Terry, who's played by Paula Marshall, and she comes across as whiny to me. I didn't really care for her character at all. And both actors, to me, are wooden in the acting department. They're very stilted. I don't know. To me, they're the weakest links to this movie. You take them out of the movie, and it's still the same thing. Terry Farrell, like in the first half of this movie, her acting is a little bit wooden, but as it progresses, it gets a little better. To me, she's at her strongest when she's talking with Doug Bradley, but you can clearly tell that Doug Bradley is such an amazing actor. He's overshadowing her in that department because he has more of a range and stuff and all that good stuff. But you know, it's all good. The designs of the new Cenobites are okay. Actually, no, they're not okay. They're actually pretty inventive. You got the camera guy Cenobite. You got the CD Cenobite. You got the bartender who dies previously in a scene. He becomes a Cenobite called Barbie, shooting fucking fireballs. J.P. Morgan and Terry becomes Cenobites. You know, Terry becomes like a smoker Cenobite because her character smokes a lot, and JP has like some thing through his brain or whatever. So yeah, it's like, yeah, it's just a lot of craziness going on in this movie. But like the highlight of this movie by far is the church scene of this movie, and I am not going to give away the church scene because I think the church scene stands out on its own. It's just a good scene. Pinhead just walks into a church and like he's just like doesn't faze him 1 minute, you know, and like he tortures the priest, which is pretty fun, and like he has a couple of cool lines. He also does like a little and it does like his own version of the whole like, you know, this is my body, this is my blood type deal. So yeah, the church scene in this movie is pretty good, and it's pretty much the main highlight of this movie. And yeah, that's it. That's all I got to say really about Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth. Watch the movie. I find it enjoyable. I mean, it's inferior compared to the other two, but on its own, I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10. Not a bad movie. To me, it does an okay job at tying up all the films in a nice little bow. And as to me personally, in my universe, Hellraiser ends with Hellraiser 3, and the other movies after this, they don't exist because I don't acknowledge trash. So yeah, 6.5 out of 10. Give Hellraiser 3 a watch. You'll find enjoyment out of it, especially if you like 90s slasher movies like I do. Anyway, I'm AJ Legend. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll check you back next time for more.